Hello, my dear students, and welcome to your online class. My name, is teacher Cosme Robalino, and today we are going to talk about a little bit of history. The topic for today is the Sumerians. And why are they important? Well, because they made many contributions to our civilization. And so we are going to see the impact of the Sumerians in our lives even today. So first, let me show you a picture of something that looks similar to a pyramid, right? Looks like a pyramid, but it was built before the pyramids of Egypt or our pyramids in Mexico. So that's why it looks a little bit different. And we are going to see that the Sumerians lived when? Well, between 5,400 years before the Christian era until the year 1,750 before the Christian era. So that's about 7,000 years ago, right? And they discovered and invented many things that we use today. But before we discuss the Sumerians, let's talk about the objective for today. And it's very simple. The objective today is to learn the contributions of the Sumerian civilization to the civilization that we have today. Okay, so let's see. First of all, let me show you the map. Here we have the ancient Mesopotamia map. The Mesopotamia is found to the west of the, to the east of the Mediterranean Sea, right? Between the two important rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. You can see also that on the lower left corner is the Kingdom of Egypt. But the Sumerians lived a little before the Egyptians had a kingdom. Okay. Between the Tigris and the Euphrates is a country that we call today Iraq. And next to the Persian Gulf, right? Next to the Persian Gulf, exactly where Sumer is or was, today is the country of Kuwait. And we can see that to the north of the to the north of the Mesopotamia, we have the Caspian Sea. And to the southeast, we have the Persian Gulf. Okay, so this is the geographical place of the Sumerians. Before the Sumerians, people were nomads. That means that they didn't have houses, they didn't have buildings, they didn't have villages or cities or towns. People only moved around a lot in search of food, hunting, collecting food, but they didn't have agriculture. It was only the Sumerians that started with these inventions, agriculture, buildings, and so on and so forth. So that's why we are going to see that civilization originated in the Mesopotamia. Okay, so the Sumerians formed the first human civilization in world history, the first civilization. Before that, no civilization. They lived in southern Mesopotamia, right? Between these two rivers that are called the Tigris and the Euphrates in the Middle East. So today the Middle East is Iraq, Iran, Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so on. Also, the Sumerians formed Sumer, the city of Sumer, around 5,000 years before Christ. As I was telling you, 7,000 years ago, more or less 7,000 years ago. Nomads moved into the land and built small villages. So these nomads that I was telling you were probably walking and traveling long distances in search of food, especially if you lived in the desert. You had to look for water, and drinkable water, that is to say. And when they arrived to this area, then they decided to build a Sumer, the city of Sumer, around 5,000 years ago. I'm sorry, around 7,000 years ago. So these villages obviously started to grow into large towns and then into big cities. And eventually, these cities developed into the civilization of the Sumer, or Sumerians, as we know them today. And historians consider this land as the origin of civilization, or the cradle of civilization. So this is where we start. Many concepts that we have today were born here in Sumer, like the concept of time, the concept of the wheel, the calendar, and many others that we are going to discuss. And this is very exciting and very important, because that explains why we have these things today. Where is the origin? Where were they born, right? Okay, so here we have a structure similar to a pyramid. You could say that this is somewhat pyramid, right? With several levels, something similar to stairways or stairs, and a surrounding wall, right? So you have about 4 levels, right? Well, 3 levels, and then a roof. So as the Sumerian villages grew into large cities, they formed city-states. What is a city-state? A city-state is just an independent government with political autonomy. So that means that there was no central government. Every city had a different government. This is where the city government ruled the city and also the land around it. So for example, here on the upper left corner of the picture, we can see some trees. We can imagine that these trees belong to the city, but this is outside the city. This is the land that people worked outside the city. So these cities fought each other very constantly, right? There was no stability, no social stability. So they had to fight and defend themselves constantly. So to protect themselves, they built walls around their cities, as we can see in this picture, around the pyramid, and this structure is called the ziggurat. And farmland, the farmers were outside the walls, but people went back to the city when invaders came, when the city was attacked, right? When other people attacked or other cities attacked, then they had to go inside for protection. So here we are going to see 2 cities, okay? You can see this city with buildings, walls, bridge, beautiful, right? It almost looks like a modern city. And you can see something similar to pyramids. There were many cities in Sumer, right? Not just 1 or 2. Some of the most powerful city-states, right? city-states with um, independent government were Eridu, Bat-Tibura, Shurupak, Uruk, Sipar, and Ur. Uh, Eridu is one of the oldest cities in the world. Okay, and if you read some religious texts, these cities are going to be mentioned there. You will find them. And the other image, well, the image on the left shows you Eridu, the oldest city. But the image on the right is Ur, right? A popular city that is sometimes included in the movies. Okay, so then we have the fact that the Sumerians made many inventions that we can use today. Today, we're going to describe some of them, not all of them, because it's very important for you to identify just the important ones, okay? So some of the inventions that they made were a writing system, not the writing system that we use today, something similar. And you're going to see that in an image in a moment. They also developed a number system based on the number 60. Today we use the decimal system based on the number 10, but they used a number system. They invented a number system based on the number 60. And this is how, for example, our clocks today have 60 minutes in 1 hour and 60 seconds in 1 minute, right? They also invented the first wheeled vehicles. They invented the wheel for pottery and also for vehicles, right? For chariots. They also invented sun-dried bricks for construction. And another important invention was irrigation for farming. Don't forget that the Sumerians invented agriculture and farming. They were the first ones to domesticate animals. So all these things were important for the development of human civilization because other civilizations took the same inventions and continued developing. Okay, so the first image shows you the wheel, right? A simple vehicle, yes, but very important for transportation and also for pottery. Also, the writing system. This is the system that they used not to write history, but to keep track of business, okay? As we are going to see in a video that I'm going to show you, they had some mathematical operations already when they conducted businesses. And the third image is going to show you agriculture. And here, agriculture has a very important tool, and it's called the plow, right? So the agriculture was invented by the Sumerians, and that's why they started civilization because before them, agriculture didn't exist. Okay, so these are three of the most important inventions by the Sumerians, but there are many others. They also had an interest in science, including astronomy and the movement of the moon and the stars, very similar to our ancestors here in Mexico. You know, the Mayans observed the moon, the stars, and then the Aztecs developed, obviously, the Aztec calendar with a circle, right? So something similar happened with the Sumerians, but way before back. This is 7,000 years ago. And they used all this information about the moon and the stars to make a more accurate or precise calendar. So I'm going to show you two images that relates to time. First, a very simple shade clock, right? You can see the shade marking the time. Yeah, so the concept of time was born in Sumer. And this is a very, very simple machine, if you like, or a very simple device that uses the sunlight, but very important to keep track of time, right? Okay, so the second time is something similar, right? But now you can see the circle divided in 360 degrees, right? So this concept of dividing the circle in 360 degrees that we use even today was first invented by the Sumerians, right? So you see how important the contributions have been over time. So here we can see an artist's recreation of what life was for the Sumerians conducting businesses and also sailing using ships through the oceans or the rivers that we saw in the map. Okay, so next I'm going to show you a video that is going to explain all these inventions that the Sumerians invented in those times in the year between the years 5000 before Christ and 1700 before Christ.
The civilizations of ancient Mesopotamia brought many important advances in the areas of science and technology. Perhaps the most important advance made by the Mesopotamians was the invention of writing by the Sumerians. With the invention of writing came the first recorded laws called Hammurabi's Code, as well as the first major piece of literature, the epic tale of Gilgamesh. Although archaeologists don't know for sure who invented the wheel, the oldest wheel discovered was found in Mesopotamia. It is likely the Sumer first used the wheel in making pottery in 3500 BC, and then used it for their chariots in around 3200 BC. The Mesopotamians used a number system with the base 60, like we used base 10. They divided time up by 60s, including a 60-second minute, a 60-minute hour, which we still use today. They also divided up the circle into 360 degrees. They had a wide knowledge of mathematics, including addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, quadratic and cubic equations, and fractions. This was important in keeping track of records, as well as in some of their large building projects. The Mesopotamians had formulas for figuring out the circumference and area for different geometric shapes like rectangles, circles, and triangles. Some evidence suggests that they even knew the Pythagorean theorem long before the Pythagoras wrote it down. They may have even discovered the number for pi in figuring out the circumference of a circle. Using their advanced math, the Mesopotamian astronomers were able to follow the movements of the stars, planets, and the moon. One of the major achievements was the ability to predict the movements of several planets, This took logic, mathematics, and a scientific process. By studying the phases of the moon, the Mesopotamians created the first calendar. It had 12 lunar months and was the predecessor for both the Jewish and Greek calendars. The Babylonians made several advances in medicine. They used logic and recorded medical history to be able to diagnose and treat illnesses with various creams and pills. The Mesopotamians made many technological discoveries. They were the first to use the potter's wheel to make better pottery. They used irrigation to get water to their crops. They used bronze metal and later iron metal to make strong tools and weapons, and used looms to weave cloth from wool. Interesting facts about Mesopotamian technology. The walls of Babylon were once considered one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. There were actually 2 massive walls that surrounded the entire city. Archaeologists estimate that the walls were over 50 miles long, with each wall being around 23 feet wide and 35 feet tall. There were also massive towers at intervals along the wall that may have been hundreds of feet tall. The Mesopotamians may have invented the simple machine called the Archimedes screw. This would have helped them raise water to the heights needed for the plants in the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Assyrians developed glasswork, as well as glazes for pottery and art to help it last longer. 18 different canals have been found that brought water to the Assyrian Empire capital of Nineveh.
So I hope you enjoyed the video, and the only thing that I have to say now is thank you very much for your attention. Bye bye and take care.